Good morning. We're back at the State Emergency Operations Center here in Tallahassee. I'm joined with Kevin Guthrie, our Florida DEM Executive Director, as well as Jared Perdue, our Florida Department of Transportation Secretary, and Major General John Haas, the Adjutant General of the Florida National Guard. As you know, Hurricane Helene made landfall last night as a Category 4 hurricane at Deckle Beach in Taylor County. Maximum sustained winds were 140 miles per hour. It made landfall moving 23 miles per hour. We saw storm surges in many parts of the west coast of Florida that exceeded what we saw in Hurricane Idalia, which took a similar track. It was similar strength, maybe a little bit weaker, but you were seeing significantly more storm surge in places like Tampa Bay. We also saw major storm surge, of course, in the Big Bend region. We did report that there was a traffic fatality last night. We also this morning can report that there's been another fatality reported in Dixie County due to a tree falling on the home during the storm. Overnight, as soon as it was safe to do, and even in many cases probably wasn't perfectly safe to do, search and rescue operations were conducted to help people that were in distress and transport them to safety. These missions continue, but we've had thousands of missions successfully completed in the overnight hours throughout the state. This is our local first responders. This is local in conjunction with state assets and state assets directly going in and effectuating rescues, and that's the National Guard, that's Florida Fish and Wildlife, that's all the assets we had available to help support these rescue efforts. And all the calls that any state officials responded to last night, we were able to find the person or people and pets and bring them to safety. And so that's a contrast from some of the things that we saw, for example, at Hurricane Helene. And now it's still early. They're going to have those folks who were responding to those calls. They're going to be doing broader search and rescue in those areas that did get hit with significant storm surge and see if there's any other problems or if there's any folks that are still left behind. But as of now, we don't have reports of that. And so those missions were successful, and those missions saved a lot of lives. So I want to thank all the first responders, our folks working for the sheriff's departments, fire rescue, of course, all our state assets. Everyone was ready to go. And it made a big difference for what was a really historic storm surge in different parts of the state. We have currently, as of 6 a.m., 1.24 million accounts without power throughout the state of Florida. Since the storm has begun, there have been 1.16 million accounts that have already been restored. As of 6 a.m., we have 382,000 accounts for Duke, 284,000 for the co-ops, 253,000 for the munis, 233,000 for FPL, 77,000 for TICO, and 11,000 for FPU. So those restoration efforts are underway. They've been going on the entire time as people have lost power, and so I think you're going to see some progress on that throughout today. As of now, we have a number of severely impacted counties with over 30% of the power out. Alachua 55% out, Baker 86%, Bradford 65% out, Citrus 34% out, Clay 33% out, Columbia 99% out, Dixie 92%, Gilchrist 87%, Hamilton 99%, Jefferson 83%, Lafayette 81%, Leon 44%, Levy 83%, Liberty 33%, Madison 99%, Nassau 57%, Pinellas 41%, Polk 33%, Suwannee 99%, Taylor 99%, Union 86%, Wakulla 82%. And you notice those 99% counties are generally the counties that were in the immediate path of the storm. We had rescue operations going on like Southwest Florida, where the storm was 100, 150, 200 miles off the coast, and yet still generated major storm surge, and that was really the story up the whole Florida peninsula. But then as you got into landfall, where you had those Category 4 winds, there's no question that that was going to disrupt the power operations. And so that's what you've seen. Probably not just simply power lines down in the immediate path of the storm, probably looking at some damage to substations. And so there's folks that are on the ground assessing and taking action to remedy that as soon as possible. Overnight, the cut and toss operations began at 3 a.m. with the Florida Department of Transportation, and they have been able to clear a lot of miles of roadway, over 2,000 miles just since the wee hours of the morning. I-10 is open and passable, but please drive with caution. I-75 north to Georgia is clear and passable, and FDOT cut and toss crews are pushing southward on I-75 currently. In Tampa Bay, the Sunshine Skyway, Gandy, Courtney Campbell, and Howard Franklin bridges are still closed at the moment. At first light, bridge inspections began. There are reports of some mapping applications not marking those bridges as closed, but as of right now, please choose alternative routes. Those bridges are going to be inspected and open in due time, and I know Jared and his team are working really hard to do that. The Sunshine Skyway is open to first responders and emergency personnel. Please listen to local law enforcement's directive on that. In Southwest Florida, Sanibel Causeway had a washout that's currently being repaired by FDOT, and we expect that to be okay relatively soon. 470 crews are active in the field, and as I mentioned, have cleared over 2,000 miles of roadway, and this was starting at 3 a.m., so they were ready to go, and it's made a difference. 129 bridge inspectors have been dispatched at first light, and they are currently inspecting the bridges in the impacted areas. Airports. Following airports have suspended service but are anticipated to resume operations at some point today. Tallahassee, Tampa International, St. Pete Clearwater International, Lakeland Linder International, Gainesville Regional. Some flight cancellations or delays are being reported. Just check with your airlines directly on specific flight updates. Florida Fish and Wildlife has boat teams in Dixie and Taylor counties actively conducting search and rescue. These are basically the ground zero of the storm. An additional team of 72 staff are en route to Taylor, Dixie, and Levy with shallow water boats. Florida Fish and Wildlife has a boat team of 15 going through Franklin and Wakulla counties to assess storm damage. From Hernando to Lee, FWC has 145 local officers that are responding, an additional 15-man airboat team that are coming over to the west coast of Florida from Titusville. They will also have a 16-man Florida State Guard team with them, and they are headed currently to Pinellas County to assist with search and rescue there. Florida Department of Law Enforcement has positioned assets, including aircraft, and is responding for reconnaissance and damage assessments, including all backup satellite and communication systems. Portable towers have been staged for emergency communications, and FDLE staged telecommunications emergency response task forces for responses to ensure continuity of service for the 911 system. Of course, we have Florida Highway Patrol that have been assisting local officials throughout the whole time, and they are deployed and working as necessary. They are also assisting with cut and toss operations, clearing down trees and debris from not just the interstate and state roads, but also assisting with clearing local roads. The Department of Environmental Protection is actively working with local water providers to determine impacts to local water systems, and we do have reports that there are some issues with some of the local water systems. As of this morning, there are 54 healthcare facilities on generator power across the state, 5 hospitals, 26 ALFs, and 17 nursing homes. So this morning, as you're surveying damage, if you do have damage, just please be cautious of down power lines in your area. Standing water can conceal down power lines and other hazards, so please do not be walking through those storm waters. Remember to use proper ladder safety. You want to avoid any injuries or deaths as a result of people trying to get on ladders and not doing that appropriately. If you use a generator, again, there's power outages, and 1.2 million. You're going to be added to that 1.1 million that's been restored. I think relatively quickly because everyone's on it, but there's going to be a time where you don't have power perhaps. If you use a generator, don't operate it inside your house. Make sure that generator is outside your house, away from windows and doors. Carbon monoxide getting into the house can be lethal if it accumulates indoors. If traffic lights are out in your area, remember to treat that as you would a four-way stop. We don't want to see any traffic accidents as a result of that. Some of those signals are out. They will be brought back online, I think in due time, relatively quickly, but there's going to be a period of time where they may not be operating appropriately, and so treat it as a four-way stop. Remember, be careful using chainsaws. We've had mishaps with chainsaws in the past. I know people, there's maybe debris, there may be things they want to do around their property, and of course you're entitled to do that, but just know this has been an issue that we have seen in storms past. Please listen to the guidance issued from your state and local officials, the Florida Division of Emergency Management, as well as your local EM officials. If you need assistance, non-emergency assistance, now that the storm has passed, you can call the State Assistance Information Line at 1-800-342-3557. Additionally, the Hope Florida line is active for those who need resources or other assistance after the storm. And it's currently now operating 24/7 for the next 2 weeks. And if you want that, and this will be the Hope van, we're going to have the Hope bus in different parts of the state. This is a place where a lot of these charity groups that come and help, they're going to be plugged in here, and it's a way to kind of get you to some help that you need. Kevin and I will be surveying kind of what all groups are going to be involved. But I mean, you look and see some of the flooding that's happened. We've got groups that do muck and gut. Is Rubicon, are they going to be en route? Probably, yeah. So, Rubicon, great group. They come in, they help you with muck and gut. We have a program where we can bring tools and the supplies so they can use that. So there's a whole host of things. So the Hope line is 1-833-GET-HOPE, 1-833-GET-HOPE. There's a card where they have the little the little thing you can scan if you want to get on that. They gave that to me 2 days ago, and they're like, you can show this if you want. And I was like, well, is this for pre-storm or post-storm? I'm like, well, mostly post-storm. And I'm like, okay, what are the hours of this? They're like, well, 9 to 5. I'm like, no, I'm not giving out a number 9 to 5. Like, it's got to be open 24. So we made sure to get that number open and operating 24 hours. Now, I think now that the storm's passed, probably most of the stuff's going to be in business hours, but I didn't want to be in a situation someone calls at 8 at night, they have a need, and no one's there. So this has been expanded for 24 hours, and so that Hope line is there for your assistance as well. I just want to thank everybody who midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. were out there rescuing folks. This is not something that's easy. The conditions were still very problematic in many respects up and down the state, and yet we had our folks respond, and we said that this would be what would happen, because that's just kind of what we do here in Florida, but yet a lot of folks that made a big difference. While many people across the country were sound asleep, you had these folks that were out there putting themselves on the line and helping their fellow Floridians, so thank you for that. Okay, Kevin?